There are many places in northern Colorado you could call home. A lot of it is going to depend on how close you want to be to the mountains, but also how close do you want to be to Fort Collins, if not in the city itself. Well, Loveland, Colorado is an excellent spot to call home, not just because of how beautiful the surrounding environment is, but also what the city provides for its residents. Let's take a deeper dive into Loveland and see why you should call it home. So a little bit of background on the city. Loveland was founded back in 1877, but was initially a trading post and stage station for travelers heading down the Front Range towards Denver. Now the city is just south of Fort Collins, which is the largest city in northern Colorado. However, one look at a map and you can see that both cities have been steadily expanding towards each other over the years. Loveland's population is just over 80,000 residents, with a total land area of almost 36 square miles. The center of the city is along Route 287, which extends up from Longmont to the south and then heads up north into Fort Collins. Now I'd argue that this is the main route you're going to take if you're looking at getting into Fort Collins, but also if you're heading south to places like Longmont or even down to Boulder. Now Loveland extends from the literal beginnings of the Front Range on the west all the way to I-25 on the east, which would be the main highway you take down into Denver, or north towards Cheyenne. Loveland more or less is right in the middle of these two state capitals. Now the median age in Loveland is around 38 years old, but the largest age range population here is between 20 and 29. Now Loveland can be argued to be somewhat of a bedroom community, since many do commute up to Fort Collins or east to Greeley, or even down to Boulder. I can't say that there's a lot of people heading down to the Denver area because that's almost an hour away. So I'd stress that if you're looking to move to Colorado because of work in Denver, pick a town much closer. That's gonna make your commute way easier. Now, education-wise, there are no big universities in Loveland, but it is close to Colorado State in Fort Collins, the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, and then of course CU Boulder down in Boulder. Now discussing home prices and the rental market. About 61% of Loveland homes are owner occupied. At the time of this video, the median rent in Loveland across the board sits at $2,000 a month. Expect one bedroom apartments to have a rent of around $1,350 a month. And then if you're trying to rent a home, let's use a 3-bedroom for example, the median rent of these properties are expected to be close to $2,400 a month. Now if we look at home prices, the median price for a single family home in Loveland is just around $520,000 with a median square footage of around 2,400. Now this is across the board for the city, but let's look a bit more geographically to see the differences. Of course, Loveland is a city with a ton of neighborhoods, and some of them might be a bit higher in price. So I'm gonna argue that the closer you get to 287 in the center of the city, the older the homes will get, and by extension, more affordable. Expect homes in these areas to be in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. Something worth mentioning too are a couple of distinct lakes found in Loveland. You have Boyd and Horseshoe Lakes on the northeastern side, and then Lake Loveland on the western side. Homes found around Boyd and Horseshoe Lake are expected to be in the high $500,000 to $600,000 plus range, with several neighborhoods in the $700,000 to $900,000 range. There are some properties here that are worth over $1 million, but of course these are luxury properties, not the average home. Properties near Lake Loveland, however, aren't going to have such a spread. They're going to be closer to this $520,000 median, since the overall neighborhoods are so close to the center of town, and it's following the trend we just spoke on. But expect most of the neighborhoods on the outskirts of Loveland, on all sides, to be around the $600,000 to $900,000 range on the high end. This is, of course, except for the far western side of Loveland, where the properties here transition to more mountain homes, which are much more exclusive. These are secluded neighborhoods with a lot more square footage, the lots are larger, and then the perk of the location is you are starting to get into the mountains. There is a trend of properties along this corridor west of Loveland, but not quite in the mountains yet, where all the properties are on a bit more land, and thus are typically in the $1 million plus range. And this extends far south even into Boulder County. Not a surprise. Again, these are the luxury and land properties of Loveland. I do want to stress that the median price is still $520,000, and there are plenty of neighborhoods closer to this price point. Loveland is a more affordable city in Colorado, especially compared to the Denver area. So now let's talk about the activities and fun things you can do in Loveland. I do want to stress that most of the cities and towns along the Front Range have a strong outdoor lifestyle presence. One look at the Front Range and you can imagine a lot of the residents here love the outdoors. It's really no surprise. But before we talk outdoors here, let's at least acknowledge a need to go and enjoy downtown Loveland. This is a lovely section of town that features several restaurants and shops that can be a great place to spend an afternoon or evening. Now, a little bit to the east is Boyd Lake, which I mentioned briefly before. Boyd Lake and Boyd Lake State Park is a fantastic location, especially in the summer, to go take your sailboat or powerboat out, perhaps a jet ski even, or just a kayak or canoe. There are over 148 campsites, a marina, a beach. It is just a beautiful and amazing spot. I will mention too that specifically on the 4th of July, this spot is absolutely packed. Everyone is out on their boat or within the park itself grilling and celebrating the holiday. It's incredible. But now moving a bit farther out of the city, let's head over to the Devil's Backbone open space to the west. Now, can you guess why they call it a backbone? I hope so. If you're unfamiliar, the Front Range is well known for its interesting rock formations all along this corridor, from Loveland to Boulder to Golden, and then to Colorado Springs, with Garden of the Gods, as you see here, being my personal favorite. The Devil's Backbone is a 3,000-acre open area with over 17 miles of trails to go and explore. And it's right at the beginning of the Front Range, so it's not that bad of a drive. It can be a great spot to visit. Of course, Loveland is also close to several other outdoor locations. One example is Estes Park, which is just an hour west up Route 34 to a beautiful mountain town with tons of activities, as well as Rocky Mountain National Park to go and explore. But also, you can take that hour drive and head down to Boulder and explore all of the amazing things there. I have a video covering some of the best things to do here, and it'll keep you busy for days to come. Of course, as I've said before, Loveland is seated along the Front Range, which means from an outdoors perspective, there's an endless amount of places to visit. You'll never run out of things to do here. Now, one thing you can tell is that Loveland is very built up. The city and Fort Collins are now considered one big metro area, which might be a little too developed for your taste. In that case, if you're looking for a bit smaller of a town, but still want an ability to get into the city should you need to, then check out some of my videos on Berthoud and Longmont, Colorado. These are two towns to the south, one just south of Loveland and the other just north of Boulder. They're a bit smaller in size, but still offer you all the fun things to do along the mountains. I think you'll find that they're terrific options. This is Life on the Front Range. I'll see you there.